Alright guys, in this video we're going to show you how to import your SketchUp geometry into Rhino for rendering with Brazil. Take a look at this file really quick. Here there's a couple of materials, some transparent, there's two types of glass. The layers are roughly organized as such, so curtain wall, glass panels, etc., etc. Some of these are grouped, and some of these are, I believe, some of these are components. So this is a component, for example, and it's important to actually kind of look at this really quick in terms of how they're grouped or how the components are done, and then you'll see why in a little bit. But basically, this is just a saved SketchUp file. So one of the things you can do is to go to Rhino, and for example, if you just took like one of the Brazil example files, deleted everything out, and use that as an import file. So I just called this the import file. In this case, right? So it's now basically an empty file where the settings should be more or less correct. And what we do is just go to File, Import, and I just browse to that SketchUp file. And this is just the sort of SketchUp file that we're using for now. And there are I think when you actually say open, it will pop up these options. Now these options, these are really important. In your case, you always want this trimmed planes to be active instead of mesh. If you import this as a mesh, you'll get the sort of default SketchUp mesh import, and you will not be able to actually do anything with it at all. And if you want to take a look, you can see, okay, these are basically mesh rectangles. If you ask it what it is, in Rhino, what? Block instance, etc., etc. But these are basically mesh triangles. So that is really not good for you, because you really can't edit any of these things well, you can, it's just meshes are very difficult to edit. So I just undid that and import again. So instead of the mesh, pick the trim planes. You can choose whether or not you want to embed the textures in the model, but since we're in the most cases, we're probably just going to replace everything with Brazil materials, so I don't really think it makes a difference. Say okay. It'll take a little bit longer to calculate, but once it's in, you'll see that. Now, right now, I'm actually using Control-All to select everything, and then using the middle mouse to zoom. And you'll see far off in the distance here, there's something that's okay, sort of funny. This is a SketchUp sort of Easter egg, I guess. When you kind of do this, they have this sort of thing floating around there, so you can just delete it. And then Control-All, zoom. And this particular model is kind of funny. It's actually coming in below the ground, which is why you're seeing this. So what I do is select all, move, M spacebar, and just pick one of the corners here and type 0 and enter. So that automatically moves it to the origin point and plants it at the origin point. Alright, that's it. And then you get your SketchUp geometry in here. Like I said, personally, if I'm in some of these modes, especially in the shaded mode, I actually turn my ISO curves off, just so you know what are surfaces, and they just don't kind of get in the way. And you'll see that these layers basically, I'm going to move this perhaps so you can kind of compare the two. So your SketchUp layers basically will come in as well, more or less intact. These layers 1 through 5 are default Rhino layers that Rhino creates when you have any new file, so don't worry about those. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll run the purge command, purge unused, say yes, and it'll basically delete all the layers that you're not using. So yeah, that's sort of nifty. Okay, so if you look at things, a lot of these, and you can kind of check them here. So some of these are, look at the object type. So these are block instances. Some of these are block instances, etc., etc. Okay. Now the big thing here is that if you're trying to assign materials, often assigning to materials to blocks or block instances that you imported from SketchUp won't take well. Like basically, it won't get assigned correctly in many cases. So you'll see that we try a couple tactics. But if we're looking at this file, let's just say we want 3 different materials: a white, generic, sort of gypsum or stucco, diffuse white, a wood color, and a glass, right? So if you go to the material editor here, and a lot of these are ones that are sort of coming in with a SketchUp file or other stuff that's coming in with it, you can basically try to ignore them. I think you can't actually, for some reason, you can't actually delete them all, because a lot of them might have something in here, especially the blocks or the sort of component instances. Some of them you might not be able to delete outright, basically anything that's still in the scene. But we're just going to make a new Brazil advanced material. Say OK. And change this diffuse color to light gray here. So this is 230. And right click here, I'm just going to name it white, or actually Brazil white. You might have a different view. This is basically the grid view instead of the list view, which you probably had earlier or by default. So just right click in here and make it into the grid view, and you'll have these little guys, which is easier to navigate. The other thing that I do change sometimes is the diffusion. I'll make it something like 0.9, which makes it a little flatter basically, and it not so glossy or shiny for the white material, but this is completely up to you. And I'll load from file, find that sort of quick glass material that we saw earlier, right, in the previous video. And I will also load from file a wood that I downloaded from the Brazil for Rhino website, right? And so here you can download a zip file. In the zip file, there's a whole host of different materials. You can take a look here, or different wood materials, right? Pick one that you like, for example, walnut, whatever. And so yeah, let's try walnut and just load it in. So these are the 3 materials that I'm going to try to use. If I render this by default, I think you'll see that it's sort of a darker material color. This is probably like the default colors that the SketchUp model will come in with. Some of your objects have come in with materials, but it's very inconsistent, to be honest, for the most part. So one thing I'm going to try at first, just to show you, is to select it all and assign the white material to everything, so assign to selection. And if you use the rendered view, you should actually be able to kind of see what took and what didn't. And you'll see actually some of the glass is still staying like that. And actually, let me change my sun settings really quick. Turn the attenuation on. And let's actually adjust things a little bit. So I kind of want to see this angle a little better. Okay. And maybe a little higher. Alright. And if I render that, and I'm just pausing the video so you don't have to wait through the render. So this is sort of what you're getting. Now, it seems like none of the materials are really taking. And that's because you really, for some reason, you can't really apply these materials individually to block instances. So what we'll have to do is actually, some of the things I do first is actually just group stuff. So select everything and group it, if there's any groups. And these sort of block instances, you actually have to explode them. Now there's a little shortcut here. Under right there, these are the sort of selection filters, really useful. If you pull them out, this is a selection filter. This little guy here, the sort of cube and the cone, is the select all block instances. So basically look at everything, there's a block instances. So select all block instances, explode. Click it again to kind of deselect everything and do it again, because often you'll actually have nested block instances. So explode that. So now let's see, let's look at our properties. So now that's a polysurface, that's a polysurface. These are polysurfaces, right, which allows you to actually apply materials to them now. Let's check again if there's anything. Nope. If there's no block instances left, then it won't let you select them. Alright, so these sort of selection filters are actually really useful, especially if you're sort of searching for something in particular. Okay, and now let's go back here. So that's why in particular it's actually important that you organize things well by layer, so you know exactly where things, which things are on what layer, and you know what you want to do with them. Although you'll find that after you explode them, you might have to do a little bit of rearranging to make sure that things are going in the right direction or in the right layer. So you'll have to spend a little time doing that, right? Okay, so for now, I'm actually just going to, let's see what this is. These are polyglass panels. So I'm just going to hide the glass panels there. And select everything. Right click on the Brazil white material, assign to selection. And if I go to the render view, then I can see if it's assigned or not. Now some of these things, and you can actually use the sort of layer view to help you with this. You can right click and then select objects, and you'll see, okay, these are the things that are on that layer. And if this is meant to be something else, for example the wood, then assign to selection. So what you can do is sort of go through hiding, saving, hiding or showing, okay, you know, that's white. What about, is there anything on here? No. Is there anything on here? Okay, those are the stairs. What about here? Select object. Okay, that's probably wood. And remember, you have to like deselect things. Okay, all that. Let's make all that wood as well. So we have the glass panels. And this as well. Okay, and then you can move over to the render view and you'll see, oh, okay, yeah, now those things are that we want to be sort of the wood color of the wood color now. What are these? Glass panels. So I mean, it sort of depends on how your file was organized or sort of built up, and so you'll have to see which of these needed to be what material, right? So that's why the sort of organization of things was so important. But as you can see, you can sort of really quickly, once you've basically either exploded and grouped everything, you know, this is actually pretty quick. But after you've done that, sometimes you may actually want to basically group them back. Not SketchUp groups, but Rhino groups. Rhino groups will work as far as applying materials are concerned. And with a material like the wood, don't forget that if you group them together, just as we showed in the previous video, you can then apply UVW mapping to them, and in this case apply a big box mapping to kind of control the scale of the wood. I'm going to run rendering really quick just to see. Alright, so messed around with the settings a little bit to kind of get this. And it's very simple. If you essentially, one of the things we do here is to, for example, save this view, and same as sort of saving scenes in SketchUp. And so if you have an angle that you think you like, you know, things are, you know, that's an angle that you like, what you do is right click here, set view, name the views, and that will basically pull up this sort of interface, right? And then you can save it and say, okay, aerial render, for example. Say okay, and basically that will save, you know, that location. This is actually from the earlier. This is actually from the earlier materials sort of example. And so you'll see, like, when I double click, it actually moves me to that location, although the stuff is not there anymore. And so I can double click here, it brings me back to this view. So you can save the views this way, and it's really important because the next thing you would do is basically have this rendering, the rendering that we just had, and I hid. Where did it go? Okay, here it is. So this is a pretty small rendering, 640, 480. I'll just save it for now, somewhere you know, and let's call it 001, and let's do a PNG, Portal Networks Graphics here, and save it. Okay, and remember last time we showed you how to do a toon shader rendering. So what I'm going to do now is actually, while not moving this view at all, right? If you move it, then double click on this view, or you moved it, you can right click here, set view, and go to aerial render to get it back, right? And what you would want to do is just come here, go to the bottom, render pass control, enable pass control, and this is basically, you know, essentially the same as before, right? Although, okay, I need to make that toon shader material really quick, so I'll just, okay, I made a toon material and specify here, say okay, and render that. Alright, once that's done, I basically have this sort of line work, right? And with this line work, I'll save it in the same 001 L, for example, for line work. Save that. Open both of those, in, let's see, both of those in Photoshop. Okay, one here, right? So Control A to select all V to basically move it over here, overlay it. It'll sort of snap into place, and it should be in the right location, right? And then with the sort of top line layer selected, then you can select multiply. And with multiply, that basically overlays the line weights into the right sort of location. Now sometimes, depending, like these lines are a little bit jaggedy, so I probably would have rendered these line weights, the cartoon line weights, at double the resolution, and to get finer, cleaner, crisp lines, and then to overlay it. And the same thing, you can still sort of, even with the multiply applied, you can sort of still mess with these, basically the opacity, to determine, you know, how strong you want the lines to be, etc., etc. So that's one of the basic techniques, but it hinges on you basically saving this view, so you can replicate it and you can just overlay it next time really easily without, you know, losing it. All right, and that's how you get, sort of by tweaking those things back and forth, you get these images. All right, that's it.